Alabama gets a big commitment, and we're moving on to Tennessee.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the AHSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and I'll tell you about FanDuel here in just a bit. I want to thank you, everydayers, for making this your first listen every single day. And, Jimmy, we're going to start this off with announcing, have you ever wondered what Derrick Henry would look like if he played defensive line or bandit? The answer would be Kevonte Henry, as we have an affinity for dudes with the last name Henry. And O. Henry has committed to Alabama. He was committed to Mississippi State, #1 JUCO prospect in the country, was committed to Michigan at one time, flipped to Oklahoma, then went to Los Angeles Junior College. And now this beast of a human being, and I'm telling you, I watched his huddle film today, and whew, he's a dude.
He really is. This is, I know everyone is going to focus, when it comes to recruiting rankings on stars and such. Just realize how difficult it is to rank junior college players alongside high school players, because it's so different. I mean, this dude was a high school player. He was in the class of 2022. So he's a much older, more mature kid now as a redshirt sophomore. So a third-year college player. You know who else is a third-year college player? Just off the top of my head, I was about to say Jalen Milroe. He was a third-year college player last year. He's a fourth-year guy. But a third-year college player, Jam Miller.
It's on the bottom of your head since you don't want to have one at the top.
Yeah, Jam Miller, is a third-year college player. I thought one would so easily come to mind. So how would you rank, Jam Miller alongside a high school player? It's just very difficult. And on three, like so many of the other services, ranking the junior college players, it's just always sort of difficult. But so this is what I encourage everyone here to do. Do what Luke did. Don't look at rankings. Don't look at stars when it comes to him. Watch the tape. And when you watch the tape, you'll be like, oh, man, I hope this dude plays for my team. And so that's what's going to happen when you watch his tape. There's a reason that becomes evident when you watch the tape, as Luke said. This is a kid that's been committed to Michigan. He's been committed to Oklahoma. He was committed to Mississippi State, now committed to Alabama. So he has basically been committed to 3 of the top 10 programs in college football. Is a way to look at it. So this is a slam dunk. Everybody would take this guy. Now his developmental arc has been a little weird. I would think even though he's only got 2 to play 2, and what that means is he's redshirted already in junior college. So he will only have 2 seasons of eligibility starting, so he can only play in the fall of 2025 and the fall of 2026, and that is it. No redshirt available to him or COVID craziness. 2 years to play 2. He's a bandit, which is interesting position for Alabama, Luke. When we mentioned Kevonte Henry in the earlier show, we talked about how this past weekend bandit usage at Alabama was through the roof. Alabama played 2 bandits a lot on the field at the same time, trying to slow down the South Carolina run. That's why the third bandit, Jordan Renaud, played about 20 snaps on Saturday, by far the most he's played. Why? Partly because he needs to get on the field, and secondly, there was a lot of bandit snaps to go around, so they kind of needed a third guy. It'll be interesting to see what the bandit position looks like next year, to be honest, Luke. Jameer and Latham could come back. LT Overton could come back. Jordan Renaud could come back. Keon Keeley, Scout Team Player of the Week. He's a bandit. He obviously could come back. But hey, you don't sign these JUCO kids to sit, and you watch this kid's tape, and you're like, he ain't going to sit. Alabama's defensive line group is not super highly rated. When you look at the 3 guys that are now committed in that defensive line group, you won't see a bunch of stars. I just defy you to go watch their tapes and say you don't want them. I love this defensive line group, and I'm being dead serious. This defensive line group has significant professional upside. These are 3 really intriguing guys that I think Saban or Kirby or anyone out there would be interested in these 3.
Yeah, I'm excited about him too. I'm again really excited about this guy. I do encourage people to go check out his huddle tape. I know his JUCO film. I know all that. But it doesn't take much to look at him, and he stands out. Anywhere is number 14 at JUCO, playing defensive line, which is a cool thing to do. Jimmy, just for the uninitiated, explain the bandit position.
Sure. It is a defensive line spot at Alabama. Alabama lines up with 3 defensive linemen. The best way to label the 3 or a nose guard like Tim Keenan, a defensive tackle like Tim Smith, and a bandit. That's like Jamarian Latham and LT Overton that both play that spot. A bandit, in other terms, might be referred to as a strong side defensive end. They line up with their hand on the ground. It's a defensive line position. It is coached by Freddie Roach, not a linebacker coach. This is a defensive lineman spot. That's why Freddie is their coach. Their first job is to be a run stuffer. That's number 1. They've got to set the edge in the run game. Number 2, hey, when the other team's throwing it, not running it, get after the quarterback. So it's got to be a big-bodied guy to stop the run, but you also want a guy athletic enough that can be a good pass rusher. That's why Alabama, normally plays one bandit like Latham against the run and Overton against the pass. Kevonte Henry, to me, is more of a natural pass rusher. I think in terms of a Bama comp right now, I actually think he's LT Overton a year ago. He's about where LT Overton was in his year 2. And we'll see where he's at next year. But to me, he is a better pass rusher than run stuffer. So what Alabama's going to do with him, Luke, is try to add some size and work on the sturdiness part, because I think he's going to show up ready to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, he looks like a dude that's going to show up ready to do something. I mean, when I watched his film, I was like, oh, my God, just let me get out of the room. I was afraid he was going to do like Rodney Dangerfield. And remember what he said, the teams we played were so mean after they sacked the quarterback, they went after his family. That's what this guy looks like. So anyway, big commitment for Alabama, the number 1 JUCO player in the country. I think this is a guy that Nick Saban would take all day. Certainly going to help Alabama's ranking, I would think, even though it's probably not going to change from 2 to 1 or anything. It just bolsters the class.
Yeah, it makes the class better. I'm not sure how the rankings will work because he's a JUCO, so I'm not sure how the on-3 numbers crunchers crunch that. I don't know. I just know this. I want him on my team, and Alabama didn't really have another bandit out there that looked like a guy that A, was good enough, and B, put Alabama at the top of the list. But this guy was. And when you combine that with Bomawa from Canada, who's at a Mississippi junior college, who's tearing it up, who's had a great true freshman season in junior college, and then London Simmons, a player we don't talk about enough that's a high school player that's in this class. He's destroyed private school 1A ball in Mississippi. So you can't take a kid like that on tape because he just doesn't play against good competition. So Alabama brought him to camp, watched him for, 5 minutes and like, oh, yeah, I don't care what level of high school football he's playing at. This is a dude we want on the team. I like this group. And again, I don't care that they're not 5s or high 4s. All I care about is the tape. And to me, all 3 are just, oh, yeah. And I'd have wanted to see Simmons in camp, and they did. And
2 of those 3 are 4s. I mean, the number 1 JUCO player is a pretty high.
I guess he is a 4. Again, I haven't focused too much on his rankings because I don't really know how, even at on 3, we factor that in as a 4-star. JUCO count the same as a 4-star in high school. I don't know how the number crunchers do that. And I don't really care. Like I said, what I care about is the tape.
Yeah, I hear you. And that makes a lot of sense. Got to tell you guys about Roy, because I love Roy. Not the person, not Roy Rogers, not the one that played basketball.
Remember Roy on Wings? Roy on Wings?
Roy, return on yourself. Hey, Locked On Bama fans, it's time to recognize our Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we pooled over $10,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part is risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Damani Jackson, and I just pitched in $100 and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10. Yeah, even $10 makes
$100.
Yeah.
Damani.
Let's show Damani Jackson the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow.
It's a nice dinner.
Sets our team up for success. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically to this promo, but it's a promo you don't want to miss. They're giving away 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagrams, Facebook, and X at Roy_return-on-you for more info. You will love this, and it's a good way to stay connected to the big-time Bama players out there. So, yeah, you need to do that.
That's so cool.
Now I want to tell you about Academy. Jimmy and I were just there.
These are my people. These are our people here.
I hope you got to see us. You might have, you might not. We were there Friday doing a live show. Your new Academy Sports and Outdoors is open in Birmingham with the best sports equipment, outdoor gear, and apparel and footwear from the brands you love at low prices every single day. We carry a wide selection of trusted brands like Nike, Stanley, Brooks, Carhartt, Blackstone, Yeti, Titleist, Shimano, and more. Academy has everything you need to get for fun, camping, hunting, fishing, tailgating, running, exercising, and more. Plus, you can shop online on our app with free in-store pickup. Need it fast? They have a 1-hour curbside pickup, so you can load up and load out with ease, or enjoy free shipping to your home on purchases over 25 smacks. Go to Academy right there in Birmingham. Tell them Luke and Jimmy sent you. You're locked on, Luke and Jimmy. It's probably more appropriate Luke and Jimmy to be locked up, but regardless. All right, Jimmy, let's move on to Tennessee.
You might be locked if we go into Academy and start ranting and raving our names. How about your $100 to Damani? You bought him and his honey a nice dinner at the river.
There you go.
That's like a nice dinner at the river.
There we go. I mean, you
just
made
someplace I picked out.
Now let's move on to Tennessee here, Jimmy. First of all, I'm gonna get this started because maybe a little shorter segment here in this second segment, because I'm going to dedicate the third segment to the basketball team being ranked number 2 in the AP poll. Let's talk a little Tennessee and just what this game means to you in the pantheon of Alabama rivals.
Yep.
Where does Tennessee rank to you? Now, let me tell you, I obviously have Auburn as our number 1 rival. I hate to admit it because I feel like it gives them credibility, but it's true. And I'm going to call a spade a spade. I believe that Auburn is our number 1 rival. Now, when it comes to our number 2 rival, I think it's a close race between Tennessee and LSU. But I'm going to give the nod to Tennessee because the LSU-Bama rivalry, though it's pretty old, I think Tennessee and Bama, and by the way, I think Alabama LSU has had more intrigue over the years. But I think Bama, Tennessee, there's a faction of our fan base up in North Alabama and in Nashville specifically that hates Tennessee with the 1,000 burning orange suns passion. And I get it. And all you got to do is go back to things like Joey Kent, the Joey Kent game way back when in 1995. I was at that game. They just they blew our doors off at Legion Field. But it was easy to blow the doors off at Legion Field because the hinges were probably rusty at Legion Field at the time. And, I've been to a lot of great Alabama-Tennessee games. It always seems to have an extra oomph about it. Yep. I was there I'll tell you something. I was there in 88 when Murray Hill ran all over Tennessee. And what's funny about that game, Tennessee started out the season, I believe, 0-6. And we were the 6th loss, right? They win their next 5. They win their next, I think, 5 going in the next season. And we play them in 1989. That's the Saran Stacy Explodes game, where that's one of the only calls I really loved of Brent Musburger. And I remember they had Carl Pickens, and they had some other dudes that were catching the game pre-game, like they were throwing the ball, and he would turn his hand and catch it one-handed like this, just messing around. I was like, oh, my God, these dudes can play. But Alabama ended up winning that game, I think, 47-30, and I was at that game. That was a ton of fun. But, a lot of great memories for Bama, Tennessee. The problem is most of the great memories are when I was kind of young, because Alabama has owned them for the last decade and a half.
Yeah, Nick Saban sort of made the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry non-existent because Alabama's rise to the top of the Saban dynasty coincided with Tennessee's fall.
Question for you before
probably a little related.
Question for you. I just thought of this. Okay, Alabama, I would say of all the teams Nick Saban really destroyed, he never lost to Arkansas. He only lost to Mississippi State once in that, in 07. It was a fluky thing. We should have won that game. We were about to score to go up big at halftime, and we give up 100-something yard pick six. LSU, obviously, he did good things against LSU. I mean, he did good things against everybody. But would you, if you could, would you flip-flop Saban's dominance against Tennessee with Auburn, but have Tennessee have Auburn's success against Nick Saban? Now, when I use the term success loosely, but I think I would have rather Nick Saban owned Auburn like he owned Tennessee versus the other way around. But that's just me. Other people may disagree.
Well, that's easy to say because, you get hurt by those Auburn losses or the bad performances against Auburn that took the Gravedigger type play to win the game and the Bryce Young overtime game. You kind of had to live through that. It makes you wish you'd dominated them like you'd dominated Tennessee, but we'd feel bad if we'd lost, some of those Tennessee games. I'm with you. I rank the rivalry Auburn 1 and Tennessee 2. That's how I feel in terms of who are Alabama's biggest rivals. But to be totally honest, maybe it's the Nick Saban in me. Those are Alabama's biggest rivals because that's who's on the schedule and that's the games that matter to the fans and the people and the history and the tradition. But the way I look at it, Alabama's biggest rivals right now are Georgia and Texas because that's not who Alabama necessarily plays every year, but it's more important than that. That's who you recruit against. For Alabama to have massive, major, national elite success, you've got to beat Georgia for players, and you got to beat Texas for players, and Ohio State. Tennessee and Auburn do not recruit at that level, but Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State do, and you better be in that group because if you ain't in that group, then you're with the Tennessee and Auburn group, to be honest. So, yeah, Auburn and Tennessee are Alabama's biggest rivals, but Alabama better set their sights on Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State when it comes to players because you need to swim in those pools to sign players and not less, or you end up less. Like I've said all along, and I don't mean this as an insult to Troy in the group of 5, but hey, if you beat Ohio State for players, you're Ohio State. If you beat Troy for players, you're Troy. That's just how this works.
Yeah, I got you. And again, all that makes sense. It was just something to throw out there. But do you have any other Tennessee memories you just want to toss out there?
It's the only two. There's only two, and I think LSU, like you said, is kind of close. There's only 2 games Alabama plays every year where I kind of remember every game. But you are so right in that it is difficult to differentiate the 2011, 2012, 2013, all the way through like 2021. It's hard to differentiate those Tennessee games because they all look similar. They were non-competitive blowouts for the most part. So I remember losing the last time we went to Neyland Stadium, and I know a lot of Alabama fans will say, hey, DeBoer, losing at Neyland Stadium, that's just unacceptable. Well, we did it the very last time with Nick Saban and Bryce Young. So yeah, Alabama can lose at Neyland. Saban did it with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. So this is going to be a tough one, Luke. This is going to be a really, really difficult game to win. Not picking on Alabama because if it was Georgia going up to Tennessee this weekend, if it was Texas going to Tennessee this weekend, I would be saying the same thing. That's going to be a tough game for Georgia to win, be a tough game for Texas to win.
All right, when we come back, we got to celebrate Alabama being ranked 2nd in the AP polls, the highest preseason ranking in Bama history. But, of course, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel because FanDuel is awesome, and you need to know about FanDuel because it is awesome, as I've said already, and so be listening to. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, that's guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's only at FanDuel.com. And there's a Monday night game. Oh, You can't
Bills
do
and
it
Jets.
because this is actually airing Tuesday. I'm sorry. Don't worry.
Tuesday.
There's a Monday night game next week.
It's Tuesday night Major League Baseball playoffs and Tuesday night college football.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. I was scrolling. I wanted to bring this up just for the heck of it. Number one, two interesting things. Did you know that both Kalen DeBoer and Bobby Hill, the head coach or Josh Heupel, excuse me, the coach of Tennessee, are both from South Dakota? Did you know that?
Now that you mention it, didn't Heupel play junior college football in South Dakota? But now that you
played high school football in South Dakota.
Now that you mention it, I hadn't put two and two together. That's amazing. I mean, pretty amazing because South Dakota is not a high population state.
Secondly, shame on me for scrolling through some message boards where you and I are mentioned, but I was on Bama Online and somebody said, hey, Luke and Jimmy bring up a great point about the offense not helping the defense out a little bit. And most people agreed with our points and said, hey, we can also be true that defense needs to tackle better. Oh, we completely agree with that. But then somebody named Crimson Pride said, those two are typical Bama pod clowns. I take exception. We are atypical pod clowns. We may be clowns. We ain't typical. I mean, nobody does a pod like we do. I don't care if you disagree with us. We
wouldn't mind
with each other.
I wouldn't mind being a clown for like a week because I want to figure out how that clown car thing works.
I don't want to be a clown.
I want to be invited to the clown car thing so I know how it works. I was at a circus when I was a kid, and there was a clown car, and clowns were just pouring out of that thing, and I'm like, it's a damn Volkswagen. I was like 7 years old going, Mom, that's a damn Volkswagen. There's no way that there's 80 clowns in that Volkswagen, and they just keep pouring out of it.
Well, we're going to get to basketball, but I'm going to say this. I have this odd fascination with that movie Terrifier. There's Terrifier 1, 2, and 3 now. Terrifier 3 just came out. And for whatever reason, it comes on my YouTube stuff a lot. And I've just watched some of those clips. I was already scared to death of clowns. I never want to see a clown again after seeing some of those clips. Why I'm watching them is beyond me. But YouTube has figured out some algorithm. Hey, this guy hates clowns. Let's show him a lot of them. But anyway.
It's like Phil Dunphy on Modern Family said. He said, I'm terrified of clowns. I can't explain it. He said, I found a dead clown in the woods when I was a kid, but, I can't explain why I'm scared of clowns.
All right, basketball. Alabama ranked number 2 in the country. Highest ranked, again, kudos to me, even though I wasn't going out on a limb. I thought Alabama would be ranked 2. I thought a lot of people thought we may be ranked 1. I knew that plum was going to go to Kansas, just like if it were football and the roles were reversed, Alabama would be 1 and Kansas be 2 because of who they are. I'm cool with it. I do see the irony in that Rylan Griffin is now at Kansas. And okay, so be it. I hope we end up playing Kansas. And here's the other thing. Our schedule has like 8 or 9 of the top 25 teams on it, and a couple of them, like Kentucky and Auburn, we played twice. Schedule is awesome. Everything is awesome. I'm as excited for Friday night's exhibition game at Boutwell. Isn't it Boutwell?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Boutwell. That's correct. Okay. Boutwell's Friday. Yep.
And I'm as excited for that as I am for the game Saturday. I'm hoping I might get to go to both. Now there is an outside shot. So, but I am super duper excited. This team has me so fired up. I'm really I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but in a weird way, I'm also kind of excited that Auburn's ranked 11. Not because I'm like, hi, they're only ranked 11, but I'm like, it really does make things better in the state. I hate admitting it. I don't cheer for Auburn in anything. I want to be clear about that. But the fact that Alabama and Auburn are both essentially top 10 teams is kind of cool for the state, no matter how you want to say it. Even if you dislike Auburn like I do, you got to say that's cool. And you also, without a doubt, have to respect what Auburn has done with their program. Historically, the worst program in the conference. And Bruce Pearl has taken them to a point where they can be ranked in the top 10. I respect it.
Basketball's always looking for respect in the state because it's such a football-dominated state. And if it's not football, the state of Alabama has also produced a lot of the greatest baseball players that have ever lived, like Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and many, many, many others. Basketball is always fighting for a place in Alabama. So it is cool when Alabama and Auburn are both really good because it generates interest and generates perhaps a generation of basketball fans like our new guy at BOL, Blake Byler, who's really young, that's joined our staff at BOL. He's a really young guy. He's, you know, he'd probably kill me for saying this, but he's kind of a basketball first guy. I mean, he loves Alabama basketball, and he's now trained himself into being a legit basketball expert in the media and has such a bright future with that. And I think there's a lot of young people out there like Blake. And I think Alabama and Auburn both being good at basketball is one of the reasons why there might be a new generation of sports fans in Alabama who really appreciate basketball. And that's due to Nate Oates and due to Bruce Pearl. And I think it's great.
I'm here for an eventual AJ Dabansta commitment. I'm hoping. I mean, I'm not saying it's happening. I'm here for it. I'm also here for an eventual Caleb Holt commitment. And for those Arrested Development fans out there, I pray Caleb Holt's middle name is Steve, so we can go, Steve Holt. If you know Arrested Development, you know what I'm talking about.
Student body president. Is that right?
Yeah.
Running for high school student body president against Michael Sierra, I believe.
Yeah.
I think.
Let's talk about it. Oh, bye. I meant to say this. So the family, God, am I back? Are you with me?
Yep. Okay. I hear you now.
Me, Jimmy?
Yeah. Yeah. You went out for about 20 seconds.
God, I know. 20 seconds?
About 20 seconds.
For 20 seconds?
It was about 20 seconds. It kind of broke up a little bit.
My wife just told me that that's standard. Anyway.
Hope it broke up for that joke.
Me too. But anywho, so the family that stopped me the other day, I told you about while I was walking with my family, and he said, "Man, y'all are my first listen every day, and I love this, I love that, and I love your occasional Simpsons references." First person that's ever mentioned that. I appreciate it. I do appreciate it because now I'm doing Arrested Development.
Hey, I'm all in. I'm all in on every Arrested Development reference. That's one of the few shows I can just think about a scene from it and just start laughing. I mean, and it's been years since I've seen.
You know, when I always go, her. Oh, that was so good. Oh, that show was so good. And it's a shame. It's an indictment on society that show was canceled due to lack of viewership. Because and shows like Young Sheldon and How I Met Your Mother, I mean, they've got their moments and they've got their place in society, but Arrested Development was clearly better than those two shows, right?
Yeah, it was smart. I mean, it was smart, brilliantly written, brilliantly delivered. Maybe it was just too smart for America, but I loved that show. But now I did not watch, I did watch the later, you know, they made it later episodes on Netflix or something, and you know that it wasn't as good. It wasn't
stunk. The later
it sort of soured, I think, the brilliance of the first couple of seasons. Yeah, I love that show forever. Top 10 all time for me.
Oh, Franklin, sure. the dummy,
Franklin stuff. Ugh.
I mean, Job losing his hand to a seal. I mean, what else? I mean, not Buster. Job,
Buster.
Yeah,
Buster.
Every night, you know, when that song, what's that song? You're as cold as ice, you know, willing to sacrifice. You know, that's what Job started playing one night when he was over at his mom's house, and like he just started doing it on the piano, and she was dead asleep. Every time that song comes on, I think about Job singing that song. I don't know why. But anywho, all right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. I'm sorry that I cut out there for a minute. I'm going to get this deadgum internet fixed. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this thing, but regardless, that'll do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more, and until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.